Trump issues ceasefire ultimatum to Putin amid ongoing violence in Ukraine. In a significant and potentially pivotal development in international diplomacy, U.S. President Donald Trump has issued a stark ultimatum to Russian President Vladimir Putin, demanding that he agree to a ceasefire in the ongoing and devastating conflict in Ukraine by the beginning of September. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. This announcement comes against a backdrop of escalating violence and tragic civilian casualties, raising serious questions about the efficacy of Trump's stipulations in effecting real change on the ground. The urgency of this situation is starkly illustrated by recent tragedies, such as the heartbreaking airstrike in Kharkiv, Ukraine, where 14-year-old Sofia Gliniana was tragically killed. This incident, which also claimed the lives of 7 other innocent civilians, involved 5 powerful precision-guided bombs that struck civilian areas, including a playground where children often gather to play and socialize. Local officials, including the outraged Governor Oles Senhubov, took to popular social media platforms like Telegram to express their deep dismay and anger at the loss of innocent lives. Senhubov pointed out that the bombings targeted predominantly civilian spaces, including a sports field, a warehouse, an apartment building, and, most tragically, a playground bustling with children. This underscores the alarming pattern of indiscriminate violence that raises serious concerns about potential war crimes being committed during this ongoing conflict. As the fighting continues to escalate, many citizens and leaders alike fear that countless more innocent lives may be lost before any meaningful peace agreement can be reached, leading to an increasingly desperate humanitarian situation. Trump's ultimatum outlines specific and clear consequences for Russia should they fail to comply with the demand for a ceasefire. These consequences include a series of economic penalties and the potential imposition of tariffs on countries that continue to trade with Russia, particularly nations like China and India, which have been crucial to supporting Russia's economy through substantial oil purchases. In a show of solidarity and support for Ukraine, the U.S. is also planning to provide Patriot air defense systems, which will be transferred to Ukraine to help bolster its defense capabilities against ongoing attacks. However, details regarding the types and quantities of additional weapons to be supplied remain somewhat unclear and are being closely monitored by international observers and analysts who are keenly interested in the evolving dynamics of this conflict. During a notable press conference held in the Oval Office, Trump's announcement was conveyed in a somewhat unusual manner. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was largely responsible for summarizing the new American policy, while Trump himself confined his comments to brief interjections, which left many analysts surprised by the lack of direct engagement from the U.S. president. This approach brought a sense of relief to leaders in Kyiv and various Western European capitals, who were grateful to see that the U.S. was not abandoning Ukraine and appreciated the shift in Trump's tone towards Putin. Nonetheless, this relief was also shared by the Kremlin, which appeared undeterred by Trump's warnings of very severe tariffs. The official calmness in Moscow was reflected more broadly in the Russian stock market, which responded positively to Trump's announcement, experiencing a rise of 2.7% in the hours following it. The Russian ruble also managed to reverse some of its recent losses against the dollar, indicating a lack of immediate concern among investors regarding the implications of Trump's ultimatum. Given this context, one might wonder why the Kremlin and Russian markets reacted in such a nonchalant manner. According to Russian political scientist Tatiana Stanovaya, the ultimatum was interpreted by Moscow as a carte blanche to escalate its military offensive in Ukraine rather than as a genuine threat. This interpretation suggests that the Kremlin is less concerned about the consequences of Trump's announcement and more focused on its strategic military objectives. Yuri Fedorov, a military analyst, supports this view, arguing that what the Kremlin truly feared were the immediate imposition of secondary sanctions on buyers of Russian oil, as well as the advancement of legislation in the U.S. Senate aimed at imposing steeper penalties on Russia and its trading partners. Instead, he posits that Moscow now sees this ultimatum as a green light to continue its aerial bombardment, particularly since Trump is not prepared and does not want to engage in a major confrontation with Russia. As the summer progresses, the undeterred Kremlin appears poised to continue its destructive campaign, which could lead to even more civilian casualties. In the week preceding Sofia's tragic death, Russian forces had targeted more than 400 drones and missile strikes at Ukraine, and reports indicate that they are now launching even greater numbers in a single night, intensifying the assault on Ukrainian cities and towns. The pressing question remains: come September, will Trump genuinely adopt a tougher stance against Russia? Alternatively, will Putin be willing to agree to terms for a ceasefire that could pave the way for a broader peace settlement? Current indications provide little optimism for such an outcome, as the fundamental disagreements between the two leaders continue to loom large, complicating the path forward. In a recent interview, Fiona Hill, a longtime observer of the Kremlin and former advisor on Russia, offered a sobering perspective on the dynamics at play. She cautioned that Trump often exhibits a deferential attitude towards Putin, driven by a genuine fear of the risks associated with a nuclear